Hey everyone, what's going on? Phoenix here. Today we are talking about spells in Asheron's Call, and more specifically, how to get all of your spells that you need. So you're going to start the game. Maybe you didn't start with any magic, and you're going to pick it up as you go. This video is for you. So when you get into your starting town, I'm in Holtberg. You can run straight up the hill in Holtberg to this building here to buy individual spell scrolls if you want to do it that way. It's the cheapest way to get spells if you don't want every single spell, in that school of magic for that level of spell. So if item magic is a great example because early on maybe you don't need all of them. You can just buy like summon primary portal 1. This is a great example. That's the only level 4 that I really need. I'll buy summon secondary portal 1 just so that I have it, but that's all that you need. Now, if you didn't start with the magic school that you want, the new system uses foci. You're going to want to make sure that you buy the foci for the spells that you are trying to get. Otherwise, you won't be able to cast them. So I am going to, just for some examples here, I'm going to get the item and creature. That's what we're going to be working on our spells here today. So in the starter towns, you can typically buy the level 1 through 4 spell scrolls. Level 5's a good town to go is Qualabar or Zykel. And then level 6s you could get in Ayin Bakor. I think, there's other towns in each level range, but those are just some really good examples. Now, if you don't want to buy individual spell scrolls, the best thing to do is go to Arwick. When you get to Arwick, you're going to head into the town and then make a left over here. You will find 5 NPCs in a row. These are the professors of creature, item, life, war, and void magic. The way that these work is if you talk to them, I guess Turbine was testing out some new technology, but if you click in the bottom left of your chat, it'll bring up this sub panel, and then you can click tell to professor of creature magic. And now if you type level 1, it'll say, would you like to learn all of the level 1 creature spells? You need to pay an L note. Obviously, I don't have an L note because who has an L note? But more practically, what I like to do with these is learn the level 7s, although they are very expensive. So learning the individual spells is more efficient if you are short on MMDs. But we'll just go ahead and learn all of these. And you don't have to go through and individually learn every single spell, which is so nice. Like creature magic, there's so many spells. A lot of them are junk, and it doesn't matter. But you can see how this is still going. It's crazy. Versus actively learning an individual spell. Now, level 7s, because of how expensive they are MMD-wise, it is worthwhile, especially if you're just starting out on a new character, to hunt for level 7 scrolls. You can get them super easily fighting level 80 monsters, which you're going to be hunting anyway because you're going to be working on your Seasoned Explorer armor. Now let's learn the item level 7s too, just for another example. So we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to click tell to professor of item magic. We're going to do our level 7s, 16 MMDs. And, the earlier level spells are cheaper, but you don't really need them, so it's not necessarily an improvement. So that's our level 7s, and again, you can get anything level 1 through 7 from any of these NPCs. The cost of the learning the spells seems to be based on the number of spells that you learn. So like creature's the most expensive, then life, then item, and then the aggressive magics like war and void are the cheapest because war expensive. So war is 16 MMDs for level 7s. Void is only 4, and life is 24. Yeah, so it goes creature, life, item, and war are the same, and then void is the cheapest because void has 8 total spells that they ever introduced for the magic class. It's kind of crazy. So now we've learned our level 7s, we've hit level 150, and we're thinking about level 8 spells. So this is the highest level of magic that you can get, And there are a couple of ways to go about learning these spells as well. You can either do the super old school spell research method, or you can, again, in Arwick, you can get your stipends. This is my first stipend on this character. And then, who is this? Merid here sells these certificates. So you're going to be looking for the item spells certificate, life spells certificate, creature spells certificate, combat spells certificate, ring spells certificate, wall spells certificate. If you are into the combat, most characters probably you only need to get creature, life, and item. That's kind of the shortcut way to get your level 8 spells, but stipends are very valuable. You could instead be upgrading your character by getting augmentation gems, or if you're after Paragon, you could be working on your promissory notes here. So the other way is through spell research and creating spell scrolls, which is pretty cool. It does get old a little bit quickly. Let me just move this so my head's not blocking it. Now, there are 4 different quills that you can get. There's 9 different inks, and then there are a ton of different glyphs that you can find. A lot of the inks are only valid for war magic, so if you're not a war mage, you can ignore them. War spells for level 8s make this very complicated, and again, if you're not a war mage, it makes it a lot easier, a lot more practical for this to be the way that you get your level 8 spells. So I'm not going to make every single spell scroll, but I will go through some just as examples. So let's start with some creature spells. So generally, the blue quills of introspection are self buffs. So creatures formula for a self buff is a blue ink of introspection, a teal ink of formation, and a glyph of the spell that you want. And then you're also going to need mana scarabs. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your you're going to use your quill on the mana scarab to infuse it. Then you're going to dip the quill in the ink. And then you're going to use the introspective quill of formation, whatever you're getting, on your glyph, and then you will create a scroll. Inscription of Willpower Self, you use these like anything else, and you learn a new spell. So that's creature self. If you want to make creature debuffs, you're now using the red quills of infliction and the green inks of conveyance. So the same thing, you always go to the mana scarab first, then into the ink. And now let's make this mana conversion ineptitude other. The spell I have probably never cast ever. And then the last thing that we can make is a dispel. So we need specifically the creature glyph for this. We need a green quill. So we're going to do green quill. And we're going to use these inks of nullification. I believe that's the only time that inks of nullification get used. And then we're going to use it on the creature glyph, and we'll make a... Oh, so this is the other. That's why it's a green. If it was blue, if it was a nullify self, it would be blue. So it's the same thing with the... It's just the change in the ink. All right, so I think that's all... the creature is basically the same thing over and over again, just with a different glyph. So let's do an item spell just for an example. So item is a bit more complicated because you do end up with, because you have banes for your armor, you have buffs for your weapons. So there are a couple of different formulas. Typically the buffs still start with blue. We're going to go into the thing, and then you dip here into the white ink. And for example, if you wanted to cast Spirit Drinker, you're going to use Focus. If you wanted to cast Blood Drinker, it's a Strength Glyph. If you want Hermetic Link, it's a mana conversion, and so on. All right, so we got a sweet aura of incantation of Spirit Drinker now. Item is the only school that has other level 8s. So there's no creature other spells except for debuffs. There's no life other spells except for vulns. Item Magic is the only school that has level 8 spells other. Now, the other spells exist in the database for Asheron's Call, and if you play the emulator a couple of years ago, you would know that when you did the stipends, you got level 8 other creature spells. That was eventually fixed because that was a bug. That was not how that was supposed to work. There were not level 8 other spells for creature and life that you could get in retail Asheron's Call. So that was just fixing that bug to get rid of those. So then the next thing we have for item is Banes. So Banes are going to use green quills, white inks, and then you're going to use an element. So if we wanted to do acid, we're going to end up with Inscription of Acid Bane. If you want the lures, it's the same thing except with a red ink. It's the same thing except for with a red quill. So that is the basics of item enchantment. Let's do life. So life is very similar to creature. You do blue into teal, and now we're going to use the elements. So that will give us acid protection self. If you want the vulnerability, which we definitely do, it's going to be red into green into the element. That will give us acid vulnerability. Think pretty straightforward from there. Now, war gets very complicated. I honestly highly recommend for war just buying the stipend, but if you do want to make it, which is perfectly valid, it's going to be red quills the entire time. Red, and then into whatever ink you want. So there's 5 different war inks. There's parabolic, which is for arcs. There's direction, which is for, I believe, regular, like bolts. Blue is for streaks. Orange is for blasts. And purple is for volleys. There are no level 8 walls, and there are no level 8 rings. I guess there's level 2 rings, which you get from Viridian Rise, but you can't make those scrolls anyway. So whatever you're going for, we'll just do yellow and then whatever element you want. So we made a Inscription of Frost Arc. And now you'll notice I don't have War Magic, but like level 7 scrolls, you can learn level 8 scrolls even if you are not trained in that magic, which is, it's nice if you want to like get these ahead of time. And then finally, Void. Void, I don't even know if I have any of what Void would do. Oh, I can make the Inscription of Weakening Curse, which Void uses these Quills of Extraction quite a bit. So we're going to do that, and then we use the Nullification, and then we can do the Damage Glyph to make a Void scroll, Incantation of Weakening Curse. So yeah, I think that that's going to be it for spell research. I do highly recommend just getting the stipends. This is much faster. Again, if it's your first character and you're building it up, doing the scrolls can be fun. I think Turbine was trying to come up with a system that was similar to the original Asheron's Call system of spell research, which was eventually broken by Split P and similar programs. Now, one last thing that I do want to leave you with before we go is that if you really want to do it this way and you're like, oh my god, I need a Glyph of Flame, there is an exchanger for components, and I will show you where that is. Each of the Mana Forges in Craigstone, Zykel, and Hebian Toe have a component exchanger. This guy right here says he's a Games Master. I'm not sure why he's a Games Master, but you can just say, hey, I don't need this Glyph of Item Enchantment, hand that over. Well, first, we're going to give an MMD, apparently. So we'll give one of our MMDs. I just spent a bunch of them. And then you'll get a new component. The problem with this way of getting a specific component is that there are so many different components that your odds of getting the one that you need are pretty low. I have done this before in the Asheron's Call seasons when I needed like a group of components where there were a bunch of potentials for success. That was okay, but your odds of getting, you know, if I need a flame glyph, I probably would blow all of my MMDs before I got, third try. So it is possible. That's it. So it's good to know that this is here if you want to go this route. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Spells are a super important part of Asheron's Call, so it's good to know all the options out there for learning your scrolls and learning all of your spells. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in the next one. If you want to get these videos early, you can click the link in the channel description and become a channel member. It really does help support the channel. Thanks again.